Hello, I'm Soraya Wright. The theory that I'm going to discuss is Jean Piaget's cognitive developmental theory. Piaget was a Swiss psychologist who changed the way we think about how children's minds develop. In 1920, while evaluating the results of standardized reasoning tests, Piaget concluded that children think differently than adults. This led Piaget to the question he would spend the rest of his life studying. How do children learn? In his cognitive developmental theory, Piaget emphasizes conscious thought and the development of complex thinking skills. His theory states that children go through 4 stages of cognitive development as they construct their understanding of the world. According to Piaget, 2 processes are used to construct our world: organization and adaptation. First, to make sense of our world, we organize our experiences. Second, we must adapt to new and changing environmental demands. Piaget emphasized that children actively create their own cognitive worlds. Each of Piaget's stages is age-related and has its own way of understanding the world. Stage 1 is the sensory motor stage that lasts from birth to about 2 years old. Infants at this stage construct an understanding of the world by connecting their sensory experiences, which is what they see and what they hear, with their physical motor actions. At the beginning of this stage, newborns are basically using reflexes. By the time they're 2 years old, they can produce complex sensory motor patterns and use primitive symbols. An important accomplishment during stage 1 occurs at about 8 to 9 months. It is when the child acquires the sense of object permanence, which is that objects continue to exist even when they cannot be seen, heard, or touched. This is why children at this age love to play peekaboo. Stage 2 is the pre-operational stage that lasts from 2 to 7 years old. Children at this stage are able to represent the world with words, images, and drawings. In this stage, the child progresses to increased symbolic thinking and begins to reason. Egocentrism is present, which is the inability to put themselves in someone else's shoes and believe that everyone else thinks exactly as they do. Also, children at this stage have the belief that inanimate objects have lifelike qualities and are capable of action. This is called animism. An example of this is when a child believes that the TV is tired, so it needs to be turned off. Stage 3 is the concrete operational stage that lasts from 7 to 11 years old. Piaget considered the concrete stage a major turning point in the child's cognitive development because it marks the beginning of logical or operational thought. This means the child can work things out internally in their head, rather than physically trying things out in the real world. Stage 4 is the final stage. It is the formal operational stage that lasts from 11 years old to adulthood. Individuals at this stage move beyond concrete experiences and think in abstract and more logical terms. In this stage, adolescents develop images of ideal circumstances, they entertain possibilities for the future and what they can become. These are the 4 stages of Piaget's cognitive developmental theory. Some of the criticism directed at Piaget's theory are as follows. Development does not always follow such predictable paths. Progress to the formal operational stage is not guaranteed, which means that not everyone reaches the formal operational stage. Infants possess many of the abilities at an earlier age than Piaget thought, which means that kids are more competent than Piaget actually thought. Piaget used his observations of his 3 children to develop his theory. A lot of people criticize that because they figure that his sample is way too small because he only observed his 3 children and a small sample of other children. Fortunately, even though there's plenty of criticism, Piaget's theory is still viewed as having had a significant influence on our understanding of child development. I like Piaget's theory and am thankful for his contribution to psychology. Before Piaget, researchers and psychologists thought children were just mini adults. Thanks to Piaget, we know that children think very differently than adults. Well, I hope you have enjoyed my discussion at Piaget's cognitive developmental theory. Please post any comments or questions you may have. Thanks and have a great week.